Welcome to the Putnam County Library Lunch and Learn. Today we are joined by Amber Vargas and Christine McMenamin, who are going to be talking about the Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands. Take it away, ladies.
Hi everybody, well I am Christine and this is Amber, and we're very happy today to talk to you about Legal Aid Society. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Legal Aid? Okay, great. So some of this might be information you already know, but please feel free to share it and maybe you'll learn some things. We will have question and answer at the end. So what is Legal Aid Society? We are a 501c3 private nonprofit law firm that provides education and representation in civil matters for low-income individuals, families, and seniors who normally could not afford legal services. So what's important about that is, first of all, we are a private nonprofit law firm. We are not a government agency. Some people think we are. We're not assigned counsel always from courts or anything like that. We are a private nonprofit law firm, and we only handle civil matters. So we do not handle, and we'll talk about this later, but we do not handle any criminal matters. We do civil only. And another important part about us is we generally provide services to low-income individuals, although we'll talk about that a little bit later. There's certain programs that we can help people with that have no income limits. So it's not only for low-income people, but the majority of our services are for low-income individuals and families. And our mission is to advance, defend, and enforce the legal rights of low-income and vulnerable people in order to secure for them the basic necessities of life. And we will go over the different areas that we practice, and you'll see that they are basic necessities. And that is our mission. Okay, so again, that's our mission. We cover 48 counties in Middle Tennessee. So we cover a really big area with 8 offices and around 32 attorneys. So if you're thinking, wow, that's a really small number for 48 counties, you're right. Unfortunately, we are a nonprofit. We solely exist on funding from different various sources, and we unfortunately do not have all the attorneys that we need to cover everyone's needs. So we do have to say no a lot because we don't have enough people to represent everybody that needs our services in all 48 counties. But we do our best to help everyone that calls us in some way. So we sometimes provide advice and counsel to people if we can't actually represent them in court, or if we can't help, we have resources that we can give to people so that they can maybe get help somewhere else. We don't like to just say no and not give any sort of resources to people. And it says here in the slide as well, what I just said, the demand for services far exceeds the resources to provide them. Unfortunately, in our service area, which means in Middle Tennessee's service area, there are over 440,000 individuals that live at or beneath the federal poverty level, and there is one legal aid society attorney for every 13,000 citizens who might need our services. So one person can't help 13,000 people, no matter how much we try to hit that number. So we try and do our best, but we have a lot of people that really want to help as many people as possible. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, just specific to our office, we have 5 attorneys, and we all have our different specializations, and we cover 10 counties out of the Cookeville office. So I will talk more about that here as well. So these are the different areas of practice we have. We have people in-house, like in our Cookeville office, that specialize in these, and we also partner with our Nashville office and their resources to get pro bono or free attorneys where we can. Sometimes attorneys will work with us and charge less money because legal aid is the one providing the resources. Again, nothing criminal, so can't keep you out of jail or get you out of jail, and can't send people to jail. Some people think that's what we do. That's the district attorney's office, not us. But we have 8 offices throughout Middle Tennessee, and there is a good working network between the entire firm. So if I get a call and I know that it really needs to go to my cohort in Gallatin, I just call up Gallatin and send the person to the right office.
And with these areas of law, we have what are called practice groups. So all of the attorneys in all the different offices will meet on a regular basis and talk about cases and case law and things that are going on in that area of law. And so we aren't kind of just our own, you know, one person in our office has to just figure it out. They have all the attorneys in all of our offices to lean on, especially in complex cases. So just to read out the offices for the video and all that, we have Clarksville office, Gallatin office, Oak Ridge, Tullahoma, Columbia, Murfreesboro, our office, which is Cookeville, and Nashville. And yeah, so, and in Cookeville,
we actually got our 10 counties up there, Clay, Cumberland, Putnam, Pickett, Overton, White, Van Buren, Jackson, Fentress, and DeKalb, thank you. I was like, I got to 9 without looking, had to look up again. And basically, within each court, there's different judges, there's different rules, there's the general law that we all follow in Tennessee, and then there's court-specific practices. And so in our office, we look up the local rules of practice, and there's a lot more experience in the office than just me. I am the newest at being an attorney, and I've been there 7 years. So we've got a wealth of experience here locally as well as otherwise. Is that really loud, Spencer? And our main number and our toll-free numbers are the best way to contact us. Those are on our cards that we passed out here, but just for the video, 931-528-7436 is the Cookeville Legal Aid Society's main number, and you can call the toll-free number 800-238-1443. There is also an option to leave a voicemail in Spanish that we have set up, and then those are translated and gotten to the correct offices as well.
and we do have staff members. We do have someone in Cookeville who speaks Spanish. So if anybody is a Spanish speaker, either there will be a staff member who speaks to them, or we will get someone who's a staff member to call them back and speak to them in Spanish or any other language. Spanish is just the one that we have in-house, but we have access to like a language service for any language, so we can assist anybody in any language.
Yes, so have written materials in Thai and all sorts of different languages. If the person on the phone with you is me, I won't be able to talk to you without an interpreter's assistance, but we do have those services so that we can provide services to people whether they can speak English or not. We also have partnerships and programs that help us speak to deaf and hard of hearing community as well. Have to hit the disclaimer. I'm gonna just straight read it, and then the information provided in this presentation cannot take the place of legal advice. Each case is different and needs individual attention. I am not giving anybody here advice today.
I am not either.
That is not what we're here for today. We're giving you general information, and we'll try as best as possible to answer questions that come up from our audience here with us today. But the lawyer answer is it depends, and I'm going to ask you to call to see if you qualify for our services, and then we can go through the process of making you a client before we can actually give you advice. Every case is different, and you're not going to get the information you need from this PowerPoint or from us today.
Okay, so eligibility. I'm gonna talk a little more about, talk more than the information on this slide. But essentially, if a person qualifies for our help, we do provide free legal representation or give advice. So I mentioned before that some of our areas of practice are based on income and some are not. So it's easier to tell you the ones that are not and then the rest are. So the ones that we don't, we're not bound by the income requirements. So if someone is experiencing domestic violence and needs a divorce or an order of protection, we can help usually without any regard to their income. If someone is 60 years old or over and we do whatever kind of law they need, then we can generally represent those people without regard to their income, no income limit. And there are certain consumer issues where someone is being sued for a debt or is dealing with some sort of consumer issue that we can actually represent them in irrespective of their income. So those are the areas that we don't necessarily have to have you under the income limits. So I really want to point that out because a lot of people think legal aid, I would never qualify with my income. If you're 60 and over, if you are experiencing domestic violence and that's what you are calling about, a divorce or an order of protection, or if you have a consumer issue, please call us regardless of your income because we might be able to help. The rest of what we do generally, we do have income limits, which is in general 125% of the federal poverty income guidelines. There's a few exceptions to that. So again, please don't self-select yourself out. Just give us a call, we can walk you through that and let you know if you're over income. And if you are, we might have other resources to point you in that direction. So, and for our clients usually only pay for filing fees or other costs assessed by a third party. Sometimes we actually can get those waived, but it depends on the facts of the case. So again, we're not gonna talk about individual cases, but generally, if someone does have to pay out of pocket for something, it may be a filing fee or some cost from the court in general. Might be also like mediation costs, things like that sometimes, not always. And there are fee waivers and there are ordered costs that you may not have to pay, or you may have to, it depends. So.
And generally speaking, the one thing I like to reiterate is it doesn't cost anything to call us, it doesn't cost anything to actually have us hired, and that's in our representation agreements or retainer agreements. We make that clear with everybody, but I think that's one of the biggest confusing things because hardly anybody is really free, even if they say they're free, but we really are free to the clients, and that's why the grants that we work under are so important, and we try to adhere to each one. And then because I'm the domestic violence specific attorney in the Cookville office, I want to add that we don't count income against victims fleeing domestic violence because they probably don't have access to that money actually, especially in cases where the parties are married and they're seeking divorce from a spouse. They normally don't have any access to those funds, so we don't want to count it against them that the abusive spouse is rich.
Right, and we do have funding that specifically takes that into account. And so the funding we receive actually says, you don't have to worry about income. We're gonna fund you to do this work regardless of their income. So we're very lucky to have that. Okay, so again, we do not help with criminal defense. We do not help with personal injury cases. Now we don't help with personal injury because generally you can talk to a personal injury attorney without paying anything up front. So most, if not all, personal injury attorneys, they will talk to you, they will represent you for free initially, meaning not for free for the whole case, but initially you don't have to pay anything, and then they will get a percentage of your award. So if they get you an award, they'll get a percentage of that, and that will be their fee. So because of that, it's not barring people who are low income to actually get their services, so we don't handle personal injury cases. And we don't do real estate closings either. So those are things that just off the bat we don't do. Okay.
So we'll actually talk more about family law now. In all of our offices, the main priority for our family law clients is that we're getting them safety, getting their immediate needs of safety met. We're able to safety plan with them, sometimes even give them safety devices like little personal alarms and door bars or even Ring cameras. We've been very fortunate to be able to supply some of our clients with those. We prioritize that safety first mentality, and then our next priority is independence and fostering independence in the clients. So domestic violence does not just have one standard definition. In the law for orders of protection, there are definitions and we have to work through those. But in our office, we understand that violence can be very awful and heart-wrenching and heartbreaking without there being physical injuries. We understand that domestic violence victims don't always call 911. They don't always report what's happening to them, to police or to hospitals if they're getting treatment. So there's no requirement, oh, if you didn't call the cops, I'm not gonna help you. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't have to be in a domestic violence shelter to get our assistance. Some people are, sometimes I'm connecting them to shelters and partner agencies. In our 10 counties, there's Genesis House and Avalon Center are the two domestic violence shelters local to Cumberland and Putnam counties. But there is also a network throughout the state and even sometimes out of state where all of these agencies work together. So there's no specific requirement that you have done anything as the victim other than, you know, we can't help you if we haven't found you, so you definitely need to call in. And sometimes we get referrals from agencies. The Family Justice Center, the Upper Cumberland Family Justice Center has 2 locations, here in Cookeville as well as in Livingston. And those advocates can help you apply for an order of protection. Then they can refer to our office and ask if legal aid is available, if I, as the one attorney for the 10 counties, am available to represent in an order of protection. I help as many people as I can. I have trouble saying no, but at the very least, sometimes I give people advice on how to represent themselves in court if they have to go alone. The other thing I want to mention is there's a lot of focus on intimate partner violence. So husbands and wives, girlfriends and boyfriends, but there's also violence between parents and children and siblings. And I have personally helped people that are going against a family member in that situation. I can also help with an order of protection if you're requesting one for stalking, which doesn't require any relationship with the person, but that person is harassing you. So 2 or more times of unwanted contact that puts you in fear or distress and would put anybody in that situation in fear or distress. I like to say, you know, not bill collectors or spam calls. We can't get you an OP for that, but we can consider an order of protection even if you've never known the person who's showing up at your doorstep at odd hours or sending you a bunch of scary messages. Also, if you're seeking an order of protection for sexual assault, rape, or any unwanted sexual contact, you don't have to have known the person before. If they put you through that or threaten to put you through that, it doesn't matter if you don't have a relationship with them for an order of protection. Our priorities tend to orders of protection because they're immediate safety, they're court orders saying leave me alone, stay away from me in all situations. Then trying to get somebody divorced so that they're completely separate and independent from their abuser, Or if one of the children have been abused, I've helped get away from the abusive spouse by representing the parent that was not the abuser. And then also custody and adoption. So in my office here in Cookeville, I do not handle custody or adoption cases because I just am overwhelmed by the order of protection and divorce needs. But if we're getting a divorce for you, I will also handle the custody part of it.
And Amber, also, can you talk a little bit about orders of protection for vulnerable adults?
Oh, of course. So there's actually two other types of orders of protection in Tennessee, and one of those are for elderly or vulnerable adults. So that's ages 60 plus would qualify you as an elderly adult, and a vulnerable adult is anybody over the age of 18 who has some type of impairment, physical or mental, that prevents them from being able to defend themselves. With those orders of protection, you have all the original, shouldn't be stalked by, sexually assaulted, or physically abused by somebody who's related to you or who is your caretaker, but also if they're trying to exploit you. So there's financial exploitation and there's sexual exploitation, just showing you things that you don't want to watch, like making jokes at your expense. And then the exploitation doesn't have to be straight up stealing your property or removing your access to your credit cards. It can be kind of shadier than that, but that type of order of protection is one that people can apply for. The original orders of protection you can apply on behalf of children. So next of kin can say, I think this child is the one who has suffered this abuse and needs protection. With elderly and vulnerable adults, you can apply for yourself, or you can check a box that the person you're applying for is either incapable of coming in and filing it for either physical or mental reasons that they can't do it for themselves, or it's just a safety risk. If their caretaker is in control of them 24/7, doesn't have a job, is just there all the time with them, you're not gonna get that person in front of a judicial commissioner, but you can apply on their behalf. And the third type of order of protections are lifetime orders of protection. Those are its own weird beast. They require a criminal conviction against the abuser for a violent crime against persons, not property. So, and it has to be a felony conviction that you are listed as the victim of. So I have clients that the criminal case is ongoing, so I can help them with the original lifetime order of protection, and we'll wait and see if they ever qualify for the lifetime. Orders of protection, both in the original sense and for elderly and vulnerable adults, last up to 1 year long. In addition to saying, leave me alone, don't contact me, the person who has an order of protection against them is not supposed to have firearms, and they sign an affidavit saying that they don't have any access to guns, or they've given their guns to someone else to be held on to for the year, because it is a crime if they're caught with a gun during the order of protection. More briefly about consumer issues. So if somebody's constantly calling you or has sued you on a debt that you dispute for some reason, maybe you're not the one who made the charge, or maybe there's all these fees and bad acts, like please don't ever go to any of the cash now horrible loan places. But if you have fallen for one of those or know somebody who has, call us to see if we can help you argue against those interest fees that have just been building up way past the point of what you paid. Also, if somebody sells you a limit of a car, maybe you have some defenses to, you didn't really buy it as is because they hid something from you when you were buying that car. And there also might be ways we can help with those bill collector calls, like I mentioned before. You can't get an order of protection against them, but our consumer staff might be able to help prevent the harassment that you're getting specifically from those.
And one of the most common calls we get is, for instance, if someone has their car repossessed and they couldn't make the payments, and let's say they said they bought the car for $10,000, then they get sued for that, for what's remaining after whoever, the dealer repossessed it and sold it, and now they're suing you for $15,000, and you paid $10,000, to buy it a year ago. We've gotten those calls quite a bit, and that's just an example of something we can help with in our consumer practice. Typically it is a lot of fees and possibly deceptive practices in selling the car, things like that. Anything really consumer related, so anything that you are being sued for or harassed about that has anything to do with something you purchased, or debt, then please give us a call, and we'll let you know if that's your specific circumstances is something we can help with. Okay, so Amber's a family attorney, I'm a housing attorney. So I'll talk more than what's on the slide on this one too. But we do have different grants for housing help, and unfortunately, there's a great need for housing help right now. Much greater. I've been doing housing law in another state, but still nationally, it's the same everywhere. It's grown, the need for housing legal aid attorneys. So we do have priorities because our funding gives us sometimes priorities, and also the lack of resources that we can't help everyone. We have to have some sort of priorities to make sure we're trying to get people who are at most immediate risk helped. So our priorities are really based on keeping people in their homes and being treated fairly when seeking a residence. So a majority of what we do is eviction defense, both private and public housing, because someone is at risk of becoming homeless, someone is at risk of losing their home, and if they're not able to afford an attorney on their own, it's very difficult for them to defend themselves without the assistance of an attorney. So that's one of our highest priorities in our practice. Also, admissions and denials to public housing, people who are trying to get into public housing because they can't afford private rent. We can sometimes help with that as well. Reasonable accommodations, so people who are disabled and need some sort of accommodation from their landlord, and maybe they don't know how to go about that, or they're being denied those accommodations. One of the most cited examples of that is someone who's a wheelchair user and they need a ramp to be able to get into their apartment. That's a big one, but a small one might be that they need it's not small, it's very important, but an easier one, I would say, is somebody is on Social Security disability and they receive their check, let's say on the 3rd of the month, and they keep getting dinged for paying on the 3rd when it's due on the 1st. Maybe they just need an accommodation for that so they don't keep getting those late fees against them just because they're on this payment that comes on the 3rd every month. So things like that. It really can run a whole gamut of things, but we help with that a lot. And fair housing and housing discrimination. People that are being discriminated on various reasons, from either getting into their housing, keeping their housing, maybe getting evicted for those reasons. We help with that as well. So beyond that though, I don't again want anyone to kind of say, well, my issue isn't on that list, so I'm not gonna call. Please call us, because we again can tell you if we can help. It may be something that we can help even if it's not on this list. And also if we can't help, we may have resources to give you where someone else can help. So these are just examples, but this is not an exhaustive list of what we handle. Again, so I I'm the managing attorney of the Cookeville office, so I have the privilege of managing everyone in our office, and I'm the housing attorney, and we have someone else who does housing and employment law. So we don't have a full-time housing attorney. We like to have one soon, but we don't have one now, and we cover the 10 counties. So again, it's a theme that we just can't meet the need. So please don't be discouraged if you're calling and we say we're closed for intake, we can't take your case this week. Obviously that's not gonna help if you have court this week, but if it's an issue where maybe you need advice, maybe you need somebody to take a look at it and you have some more time, please keep calling us. We'll tell you to call on Mondays to see if we're open, because I don't want anybody to call once, be told no, and then think that they can't get help. Please try calling. It's really an issue. Unless we tell you we don't do that type of law, it's probably because we don't have enough resources to be able to take it at that moment. But it doesn't mean that we can't help you in the future. So, okay. And then we also handle health and benefits. So this is really a big category. We help with public health care benefits, TennCare, Social Security, things like that. We help with TennCare or TennCare Choices eligibility and denials. So if you're trying to get choices, or if you're trying to get TennCare, or you've been denied, either way, we can help with that. We also help with SNAP, Families First food stamps eligibility and denials. So again, if you need assistance with actually trying to get those services or those benefits, or you have tried and you've been denied, we can help with that as well. Social Security and SSI disability. So just some examples are overpayments or payment issues with that, but it really could run, it could be a lot of different issues with Social Security, unfortunately. So please call us if you're having any issues with Social Security, and we might be able to help with that. Also appeals, if you're denied. We cannot help with veterans benefits. That's one of the things we cannot do. We also don't help with trust preparation, so we don't generally do like QITs, and we don't do private healthcare or healthcare bills. So sometimes people will call us and say, you know, the hospital is billing me for this amount. Generally, we can't do anything about that unless maybe you're being sued for it and it's maybe a consumer issue. It's not really about getting the benefit. So, but I guess more that would be maybe if you're like, I owe the doctor and now they're not gonna see me because I owe them so much money. We can't really get involved with helping you see the doctor. But if you're being sued for that bill, then maybe we can help you in the consumer realm. So, okay.
So as Christine mentioned, we have an attorney that helps with some housing, but also is our employment attorney. So getting unemployment benefits, being like applying and then being denied for unemployment. So maybe you quit, but your termination notice, the reason you quit, there was a valid reason for it, and so you want to be able to explain your cause for quitting and ask for those employment benefits. Or maybe you were fired, but it wasn't for any bad action on your part, but your termination notice might say something differently. And so I've seen that example where people apply for unemployment benefits, and without an attorney's assistance, they don't know how to argue all their rights to those benefits. And also if your employer discriminates against you, both while you still have your job, or if you believe that you were fired because of that discrimination. And then the unlawful termination, like I said, that could relate to discrimination, or some other laws that they've broken by firing you. Like you could be authorized to leave through the Family Medical Leave Act, and then you're still terminated. You can call us and see if our attorney can help you fight for those those benefits, and not necessarily your job back, though that's not normally what you want after something bad has happened by the employer, but definitely fighting for any benefits that you're entitled to. I think we mentioned it before, we've got some, we also assist with special education needs. One that I want to bring up that addresses anybody in the school system is that kids aren't allowed to, be penalized for not having money for lunches or trips. So you can't actually force a family to cough up money, and the child miss out if they don't have that money. But then also if the child is really struggling, falling behind, maybe they need an individualized education plan, maybe they need extra assistance or accommodations, maybe they need personalized assistance, or longer time to take tests, maybe they need some combination of help. And also if there are threats of juvenile delinquency actions, so again, we don't help with criminal cases, but if a child that really has some type of disability or disorder is being punished for having that disability or disorder, there might be something we can do to help and intervene and prevent further issues from occurring.
Okay, something else we handle is reentry. So what this means is, although we say we don't handle criminal cases, we keep saying that this is somewhat adjacent to that, but we're not actually in criminal court for the criminal offense. So after someone has been in the criminal court, they may want their criminal records expunged. Sometimes that means something they were charged with and they weren't convicted of, but it's still on their record. They may be eligible to get that taken off of their record due to Tennessee law. They may have court debt that's preventing them from getting their driver's license. That's a very common thing we see, where maybe 10, 20 years ago they had, they owed $500, they haven't been able to pay it, but they really need their driver's license. It's now becoming an issue. And it may not be that old, but a lot of times we see that happen. So we do help with driver's license restoration in that sense. We may be able, depending on the person's circumstances, to get the court to waive the court costs, and which then will allow them to get their driver's license, which then will allow them to go get a job so that they can then get housing and start, re-entering society, which is the whole point of the re-entry program. In addition, restoration of citizenship rights, such as voting rights, gun rights, becoming a politician is one of the rights, serving public service. Off the top of my head, I'm missing the other two. But in general, your citizenship rights. Voting rights and gun rights are the most common ones that people want to get back. And there may be a way to do that depending on their circumstances. This is highly individualized based on every single person's circumstances. Really no two people are alike in this, so please call us if this is an issue that you're having, and we can kind of go from there. In addition, there are certain offender registries, not all, but there's certain ones that you can actually be removed after a certain time. So depending on what your circumstances are, that might be something as well that we can help with. So.
One thing you didn't cover is in expungement, so there are cases that they're on your record even though they were dismissed, or they're dismissed but you still have to pay court costs, and so they're just hanging out there. But there are, in very limited circumstances, things on your record you were actually pled guilty to or convicted of that you can still get expunged off your record. So we can help with that as well.
Yes, the Tennessee law actually this year changed in that regard. And so even felonies in certain situations, one felony, you can get expunged, but not all felonies. So to be clear, you can't just wipe clean every felony, but There are certain ones that you can, it depends on your circumstances. We really can't give generalizations, because this, again, is the one area especially that it's just, we have to take a look at records, we have to look at all of the records, and then we can decide if we can assist you. But please call, and we can take a look. And then, last but not least, federal income tax issues. So we help with IRS debts, if you have frozen funds because of the IRS, or frozen refunds, I should say. So they're keeping your refund, your tax refunds. Tax credits, maybe you're not getting the tax credits you actually should be getting. Or innocent spouse relief or injured spouse claims. So innocent spouse, for instance, someone's married and their spouse is taking care of the taxes, they're taking care of the taxes, and you don't know what's going on. And now the IRS says you owe $100,000 and you have no clue why. Please get in contact with us so we can take a look. So yeah, anything else with taxes? I'm not the tax attorney, so I don't know a lot of the details. She is not either.
Neither of us are the tax attorney, but I will say, innocent and injured spouse, it is actually not necessarily connected to domestic violence at all. It can be, and sometimes I have to work with our tax attorney to make sure that I'm writing things properly in the divorce, to make sure my client isn't getting the bill or the liability from the IRS. But you can be completely innocent or injured spouse without actually being a domestic violence victim. So I did want to point out that difference.
Yes. Okay, so that's all for our side. Now we can answer any questions you have. And I don't know, is there any way to get the questions from the live, or? Okay, that's fine. Did you have a question?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have a question. Can
Sure.
you just clarify when you say about the 60 plus services?
Yes.
Does that mean for any of the types of services? And you're saying they're
Yes.
available to people over the age of 60 without any income limit?
Yes,
Requirements?
so, for any of the areas that we practice, even beyond, let me go back to that slide, but even beyond what we just talked about, so we actually, okay, so any of these areas that we help with, generally, we can assist with if they're 60 and over. It does have to be something we do, so a lot of people want guardianship or conservatorship. That isn't something we typically do, as you can see in this list. We do have a volunteer lawyers project. So we didn't have a slide for it, but we can talk about it. So Amber mentioned it a little bit. We have a whole group of people who reach out to the private bar, all in Middle Tennessee, and have them take cases for us for free. So they're not charging our clients, and they're not charging us, and they're able to represent people for all these areas of law, not all of them, but some areas of law that we don't handle. So we do have that for conservatorships and guardianships. We will reach out to the private bar who does that and say, would you be able to take this case? The problem with that though is that it is dependent on somebody being available to do it. So we don't really have control over that. So you can still call us, for instance, conservatorships and guardianships for somebody 60 and over. Still call us about that, but we don't handle that in-house. We may refer that to our volunteer lawyers project. But in general, let's say someone is calling, and generally we want to speak to the person who has the issue. So if you're 60 and or over and you have an issue with your landlord, maybe you got behind in your rent, and you call, maybe you got behind in your rent, but you're a little higher income, you're not as low income as we typically can represent. But something happened and you couldn't pay your rent, we could still help with that. It's not based on just the 125% federal poverty guidelines. We don't have to use that as our guideline if you're 60 and over. We have a different funding source for that. So if it's somebody who needs the vulnerable adult order protection, we're not gonna take income into account there. If somebody, what we see a lot, scams and consumer issues with the 60 and over. If there's a scam, if there's a consumer issue, doesn't matter their income, we can probably help with that. Now, again, I say probably just because with our resources, but that's something that we're not gonna look at their income. We'll still ask for income because we need it to have documentation, but we're not going to deny you based on your income. Any other examples?
Well, I was just gonna kind of building off of that back to the idea of vulnerable. Like, our mission is to help the people that are poor or marginalized or vulnerable, and so the thought is that you might have been taken advantage of specifically because of your age. We're not going to bar you from our assistance based on that alone. And then it all depends on what funding is there and what we as individual attorneys are able to do, and taking on as much as possible. I did also want to point out, we didn't talk about immigration law. We do not have a specific immigration attorney in the Cookville office, but our national office and some other offices have specialized attorneys in that area. That focus is on getting visas for victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. And then also, generally, I believe all of our services, with the exception of domestic violence victims, correct me if I'm wrong, need to be citizens or have citizenship status.
Yes, or legal status.
Legal
Yeah.
status, so have some legal status. The one exception being, as the domestic violence lawyer, if you are fleeing from an abuser in this country or from a different country, or in this, as long as you're in one of the areas I can help you with, I can help you with an order of protection, even if you're not a citizen or have legal status, as long as my assistance is related to you being a domestic violence victim. Because our immigration attorneys can help you apply for those legal statuses based on being a victim. The thought is, you didn't come here undocumented on purpose. Something happened that you had to be here, or you had to lose documentation status. Sometimes spouses are controlling your ability to get status. Sometimes you're divorcing from the spouse that gave you legal status because they've been an abuser the whole time. So in that limited exception, we can help people without any legal status, because we're helping them apply for legal status.
And one thing I noticed on this larger list that we didn't talk about too is mortgage foreclosure. So we have a home retention team who are attorneys from all different offices throughout Middle Tennessee, and they help with people who are being threatened with foreclosure or in the foreclosure process, or in some way are being threatened to lose their home, similar to that. So we do have that as well.
And we have that in our office. Our
We do.
consumer attorney is also a mortgage foreclosure attorney. I will say, always reach out, always ask to see if we can help. And the sooner the better. Sometimes we get calls, it's literally, my house is being foreclosed tomorrow. There's not much we at our office can do in the limited workday if that's how much time you give us. Call us, try anyways, and we will definitely send you to anybody and everybody we think might be able to help you. But the sooner the better. Nobody calls a lawyer on a good day. Nobody calls a free lawyer on a good day. But please reach out to us as soon as you have these issues, as soon as you learn of a court date, as soon as you get the eviction notice. And just reach out, see if we can help. Also, we have passed out a number that we give to a lot of people in those types of emergency situations where we can't help. It's Help for TN, so Help for Tennessee, and they have a website, help4tn.org, but their phone number is 1-844-435-7486. They are the, so not our numbers, this is the free consultation. So these lawyers won't show up to court with you, but you can get a call and a free consultation from a lawyer. Maybe they handle the type of law we don't handle. Maybe you came to us on the eve of trial and we can't help you. Definitely you can always call them as another resource. Here in our office, if we can, we take on your case and we become your attorney, and we're going to court with you, and we're talking to the judges for you, and with you in hearings. But that number and that website, that is for free consultation. You can chat. I believe there's a legal assistant that pops up, and you can immediately text your problems or chat on the online site.
And then just again, our website is www.las.org, and our phone number for the Cookeville office is 931-528-7436, or you can call our 800 number, which is 1-800-238-1443. That's the number you can call outside of the Cookeville office service area too, and you can punch in your zip code, and then they will direct you to the correct office. If you don't know which office you might need, you can call that number, or you can call our number and we can help you with which office you'll need. So, any other questions? And also, I do just want to do a plug for, first of all, thanking the library for having us today, and also if anybody wants us to, our office to come speak at any of their organizations too, we're happy to spread the word. Part of our service is letting people know there are services available to them. So we want to make sure that people know that we're there to help. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.